Hey everybody, AC here, and welcome to another Terrible Theory. This time, I want to talk about Pokemon Sword and Shield. Let me just adjust the camera. There we go. Alright. Now, this is a theory I've had since I finished playing Pokemon Sword for the first time. And this theory has only continued to grow inside me with every playthrough that I've done of Pokemon Sword and Shield. Which, granted, I've only done about 3 playthroughs on each. But still, 3 whole playthroughs, seen through to the credits, doing the DLC for both. And I've done that 3 times each, and every single time I go through this game, I'm more and more convinced at this theory that I have built. And that theory being that the protagonists of Sword and Shield are the true villains of the game. So, let's start by talking about how the players have interacted with major characters. Let's start with how they've interacted with a lot of the major characters. That's going to be the focus here in part 1, and then part 2, which I am going to be recording immediately after this part is over, is going to focus on the major sins that they have committed throughout the game. It's going to be less about the characters and more about like the story themes and things that the protagonist ends up doing. So let's start with the basics. The player character's mother. Now, in Scarlet and Violet, and I do have these compared to now, in both Scarlet and Violet and in also the Let's Go games, Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, you can go back to the mother. You can go back to the mother at any time, and you can go back to the mother at any time, and you can talk to them, and actually have a conversation with your mother in those games, and they'll be super happy to see you, and they'll be super happy to see you. Meanwhile, if you go back to see the protagonist's mother in Sword and Shield, she'll comment on how she's surprised you came to visit her. She is surprised you came to visit her, meaning that visiting her is not something the protagonist would normally do. As if visiting her is not something she would ever expect from you. That she would expect you to avoid her. So that automatically is a little strange, making you think, okay, doesn't seem like there's a good relationship there. And the mother character seems like she's doing the best she can as a mother. It seems like she's, trying to be as supportive as possible. So I don't think that there's any like bad blood on her part. I think she's doing her job. So what exactly is the problem? Well, for me at least, I think the problem is the protagonists themselves. But let's go ahead and move on to the next character. Sonia. Throughout the game, Sonia is going on her journey in order to try to solve the mysteries of the Galar region. She's trying to solve the mysteries of the Galar region in order to become a proper professor and take over for her grandmother. And throughout her journey, she'll talk to you about like her findings, and she'll be like, I wonder what that means. And you are always given two choices. One of them outright tells her the answer, and the other one hints at the answer and allows her to figure out the rest from there. And the thing is, a lot of times in these situations, you are led to answering her, to telling her what the answer is, not hinting at it, telling her what the answer is. Even if you pick the other option beforehand, it's still gonna have you go back and click the other option too. So you outright tell her what the answer is, thereby robbing her of the chance to learn. You're giving her all of the answers, so she's not improving. She's not bettering herself. She is being given all of the answers instead of actually learning. And what do we see end up happening in the post game? She has no idea what she's doing. She's the professor now, and she still has no idea what she's doing, because all of the answers were given to her up to this point by the protagonist. So she never grew. You stunted her growth by giving her all the answers. So that's your mother and the professor. Not the best track record. You seem to not exactly be you seem to not exactly be treating your mother well, and you're also stunting the growth of the newest professor for the region. That's not good. Neither of those things are good. But let's move on to your three rivals. And I'm going to talk about Bede first. I'm going to talk about Bede first because he's the easiest one to talk about. Because I personally don't like Bede. I don't like him. They try very hard. They try to make him sympathetic towards the end, and it's like, no, you're a douche. I don't like you. But with Bede, you are constantly hindering his performance, his progress. He was sent out on a mission to gather Dynamax crystal shards and bring them to Chairman Rose. You end up finding several of them just before every time you face Bede. You end up finding several of them, and you end up finding several of them each time before you face Bede. And then you beat him, and he has to leave without being able to get what he came searching for in the first place, because you took them. And Chairman Rose continues to get on him more and more about how he's not getting them because you're the one who's taking them. And that leads Bede to getting so desperate that he defaces a monument that has been there for hundreds of years. Just to try to get some kind of result. So yes, he is a douche, and yes, he does end up doing a bad thing that gets him kicked out of the tournament, but your actions are what lead him to being in that desperate situation to the point where he is willing to do that. You push him towards that. So 3 for 3, not good. So next, let's talk about Hop. Poor sweet Hop. Hop is the younger brother of the champion Leon. He is stuck in his brother's shadow. He is always being compared to his brother, and he wants people to recognize him as a good trainer. That is his dream. He wants to get out of his brother's shadow and be recognized for his own efforts. And you could fight him and let him win. But When you try to do that, you end up being told to go heal up your Pokemon, and then you come back and you have to fight him again. You are forced to beat him every time, and every time you do, he gets more and more demoralized, thinking that not only is he never going to get out of his brother's shadow, now you're casting a shadow on him as well. He's never going to get out of anyone's shadow. And he just continues to get beaten down over and over and over. Not just by Bede, but by you, the player, as well. You are constantly beating him, and you never offer any words of encouragement towards him. You are never given the option to offer words of encouragement to him, to try to cheer him up. You beat him, and then he talks about how great you are compared to him, and then that's it. The scene ends. You walk away. That's not a good friendship. That's really not a good friendship. That's horrible. So, that's two of the three rivals. Now, Marnie. Marnie's the most tragic one out of all of these. So, Marnie, you learn throughout the story that Marnie wants to become champion so that way her home city of Spikemuth can have more tourists. People will come to the home city of the champion to see where the champion grew up, and it will promote tourism in the city. Businesses will start booming. And it will like cause the economy to become so incredible in that city, to the point where people will no longer have to be on the streets. Because that's the thing with Spikemuth. Its economy is so bad that several members of the city are homeless and are living on the streets. That's how bad it's gotten. And she wants to fix that. And her fan club, Team Yell, is trying to help her, in a sense. But if you go back to Spikemuth after having beaten the 7th gym, before I believe it's if I remember correctly, it's after the cutscene that leads towards the back to the I forget its name. The city that has the 8th gym. It's the city that has the 8th gym. I believe, if I remember correctly, you wait till the cutscene plays just before getting there. Then you go back to Spikemuth. And if you go back, you can actually activate a hidden cutscene where a couple members of Team Yell are talking amongst themselves. And they are talking about how they do not think Marnie is going to be able to become the champion. And that's why they have to do their best to force all other contestants to drop out. So that way Marnie will become the champion by default. So her own fan club doesn't believe in her. They don't believe in her, and that's why they're doing all this. They pretend like they do, but they don't. They don't believe in her. No one believes that she can actually accomplish her goal. No one believes that she can accomplish her dream. You find all this out, and Marnie knows this. She shows up and tells them. She shows up and tells them to get back to work, and then says to keep what you heard a secret, and to not talk about it. that she wants to prove them wrong. She wants to prove that she can be a champion. And you crush that dream. When you face her in the finals, you crush that dream. And you end up proving all of her naysayers right. She becomes the gym leader for Spikemuth in post-game. And that's nice. But it doesn't necessarily fix the whole problem. Because even though some tourists have come, it's still not nearly as many as it would have been had she become champion. So their economy is still very bad, and the whole city is still hanging on by a thread. So it improved, but barely. It went from being absolutely god awful to just a really, really, really bad situation. It is not a significant difference. It did not make a significant difference. And even when you become champion, you could tell people to go visit Spikemuth, but you don't. You don't help Marnie out, Marnie and her struggling city. You don't help out by telling people to go visit there. You don't encourage Hop. You push Bede to his breaking point and cause him to lose the man that he saw as a father figure. You keep the professor from realizing her true potential by giving her all the answers instead of allowing her to figure things out on her own. The player character negatively influences every single character that they interact with. They have a negative they have a negative impact on every single one of the major characters that they interact with. Every single one. Even the champion. You don't interact with the champion very often. But what happens in the post game? You are the champion. You were supposed to help you were supposed to help Leon run the region, because Leon takes over Chairman Rose's place as the chairman of the Pokemon League. And you are the new champion. It is supposed to be you and Leon helping to fix all of the problems with Galar. That's how it was with Leon and Chairman Rose. They had that kind of relationship. They worked together in order to try to keep things together. But now, you don't do that. You don't do that. You don't do anything to help Leon out. And Leon is an idiot. As we clearly see throughout the games, he is an idiot. He is in way over his head with this. But do you care? No. No, not at all. And then Chairman Rose. Let's go ahead and talk about Chairman Rose. Chairman Rose wanted to revive Eternius and use Gigantamax Star Shards in order to control it. That's why he had Bede go around gathering a bunch of them. But you took a ton of them throughout the story. And as a result, Chairman Rose did not have enough in order to actually control Eternius when Eternius had finally awakened. Now, yes, it is dumb that he chose to awaken it anyway, even though he knew he didn't have enough. Yes, that is on him. He was ignorant. He thought he had enough. He thought he had enough, even though he was like, we're behind. We don't have the maximum amount that we should have. But it should be fine. No, that was a mistake. He fucked up on that part. We can all acknowledge that. But he would have had enough had we not interfered and taken a lot of those, he would have had enough, and he would have been able to successfully control Eternius and effectively not only prevent the second Darkest Day from ever happening at any point in the future, but also he would have succeeded in having unlimited power for unlimited electrical power for the whole region, including Spikemuth. This would have helped Spikemuth recover. This would have actually helped Spikemuth recover. So Chairman Rose, while his methods were not very good, his intentions were pure. He was thinking of the region. He wanted to do what he thought was best for the region. And you kept him from doing that. And as a result, caused Eternius to go on a rampage. Everyone that the player character interacts with affects them in a negative way. The player character affects every major character in a negative way. And this is just part one, folks. I decided to split this up into two parts because I knew that it would take like a good I knew it would take more than 20 minutes just to get through all of this. And yeah, I want to save the rest of it for another video because I don't want this to be like a 45-minute theory. But in any case, that's going to do it for part one of this theory. So join me in the next video for part two. Take care, everybody.